Every year, hikers step onto well-known trails and never come back. Some are found days later, injured or worse. Others vanish without a single trace. These are 20 hiking trails where people disappear. Drakensburg Grand Traverse. The Drakensburg Grand Traverse stretches roughly 205 kilometers across the Drakensberg Range in South Africa, crossing into the highlands of Lesotho before descending back into South Africa at Bushman's Neck. There are no marked trails and no facilities along the route. Hikers must summit 6 major peaks, accumulating over 30,000 feet of total elevation gain. Most experienced hikers take between 8 and 12 days to complete it, if they complete it at all. By 1985, at least 55 people had died on this route. South African officials reportedly stopped publishing the official death count around that time, meaning the true number since then is unknown. In 2008 alone, 2 hikers froze to death when winter conditions closed in without warning, and a third man fell 260 feet after slipping on ice. The name Drakensburg translates to "dragon's back," and the range has the teeth to match. Blizzards can strike even in summer, and once you cross into Lesotho, the lowest point of the entire country sits at 4,593 feet above sea level. What makes this trail truly dangerous is not just the terrain, it is the isolation. If something goes wrong out there, help is not coming quickly. There are no rescue stations, no phone signal in most sections, and no passing strangers to flag down. Aggressive baboons have been reported on the route, and several of the region's snake species are venomous. In April 2024, a group completing the traverse reported a serious incident on the mountain that forced them to issue a public safety warning to other hikers. For those who underestimate the Drakensberg, the mountain does not offer second chances. West Coast Trail. The West Coast Trail runs 75 kilometers along the southwestern edge of Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. It was originally built in 1907 as a rescue route for sailors shipwrecked along a stretch of coastline so deadly it became known as the Graveyard of the Pacific. Today, it is one of the most coveted hiking permits in North America and one of the most dangerous trails on the continent. Parks Canada evacuates up to 100 people from the trail every single season due to injury or illness. The coast itself is the biggest threat. Rogue waves strike the shoreline without warning, surging up to 150 feet further than normal waves and dragging hikers into the sea. Tidal shelves must be timed precisely. Get it wrong, and the rising ocean cuts off any path forward or back. The trail also passes through dense rainforest with rotting boardwalks, moss-covered ladders, and river crossings with no bridges. Wolves, cougars, and grizzly bears have all been reported along the route. One Parks Canada paramedic described some seasons as having 10 evacuations in a single day. Deaths on the West Coast Trail have been confirmed, including falls, drownings in river crossings, and incidents linked to the unpredictable surf. There is no cell service across most of the trail, and getting rescue teams to the injured can take hours. The trail requires hikers to attend a mandatory safety orientation before they are even allowed to start, and still, roughly 1 in every 100 hikers never makes it to the end under their own power. Tongariro Alpine Crossing. The Tongariro Alpine Crossing is often described as the best one-day hike in New Zealand. At 19.4 kilometers across an active volcanic landscape in Tongariro National Park, a dual UNESCO World Heritage Site, it draws tens of thousands of visitors every year. In the 2018-19 summer season alone, 150,000 people walked the crossing. What many of them do not realize until they're already on the mountain is that the word Alpine in the name was added specifically because people kept dying there. The crossing records the highest number of annual search and rescue operations of any trail in New Zealand. In a single 12-month period, there were 22 recorded rescues and 2 deaths. The terrain passes Red Crater an active volcanic vent sitting at 1,886 meters, and the weather can shift from calm to blizzard conditions with almost no warning. In 2018, a 54-year-old man from India was found dead near Red Crater Ridge, wearing track pants and sneakers. His group had split up when conditions worsened. He was found the next morning, 4 meters from the edge of the trail. In 2024, a 71-year-old hiker died after a medical event near the same crater. In March 2025, another death prompted the trail to be closed again. The shuttle operator who has worked the crossing for over 25 years has personally witnessed many deaths there. He canceled his shuttles the day of the 2024 fatality because of high winds and poor visibility. And hikers were still up on the mountain. The Tongariro Alpine crossing is beautiful, accessible, and genuinely lethal for anyone who underestimates it. Haute Route. The Haute Route is a 180-kilometer high-altitude trail running from Chamonix in France to Zermatt in Switzerland, crossing glaciers and mountain passes at elevations between 2,450 and 3,560 meters. It passes in the shadow of some of the most famous peaks in the Alps, including Mont Blanc and the Matterhorn. It is considered one of the great classic routes in the world, and it has a death toll to match. In April 2018, a group of 10 experienced hikers and their certified guide set out from a mountain hut on the route. A sudden storm closed in above 3,000 meters with winds so strong that the guide lost his ski mask and was effectively blinded. The group wandered for hours in blizzard conditions. By morning, 7 of the 10 were dead from hypothermia and exposure. In March 2024, 5 members of the same family died on the Tête Blanche section of the same route. They had set out from Zermatt in good weather. A storm hit in the afternoon. Rescuers found their bodies scattered in the snow, some still trying to dig a snow cave for shelter when they died. The Haute Route crosses terrain where avalanches, crevasses, and whiteout conditions can develop within hours. There is limited cell phone coverage and, in places, no realistic possibility of helicopter rescue in bad weather. Both the 2018 and 2024 disasters involved experienced, well-equipped hikers who were caught off guard by how fast conditions changed. The Alps do not distinguish between the prepared and the unprepared when a storm closes in. Pyrenees. The Pyrenees Mountains stretch 430 kilometers along the border between France and Spain, reaching heights above 3,400 meters. Hundreds of hiking routes cross the range, ranging from well-marked day trails to remote multi-day traverses with no marked path and no shelter for kilometers at a time. The region sees thousands of hikers each year, and while most return safely, the mountains have claimed lives with no explanation. In November 2020, British hiker Esther Dingley set off alone from Benasque in Spain for a multi-day hike in the Pyrenees. She sent a WhatsApp message to her partner from the summit of Pic de Sauvegarde at 2,737 meters on November 22nd. After that, nothing. Search teams from both France and Spain combed the mountains for months. The search was eventually halted in December 2020 due to heavy snowfall. In July 2021, partial human remains were found near a mountain pass several kilometers from where she was last seen. Dingley had hiked over 1,000 miles across Europe and was considered highly experienced. Her case is not unique. The Pyrenees see regular disappearances and fatalities, particularly on the higher altitude routes where weather changes rapidly and trails are poorly marked or absent entirely. On a single weekend in August near Benasque, the same area where Dingley disappeared, the Guardia Civil performed 21 separate rescues. The cause of Dingley's death has never been officially confirmed. Her remains told investigators almost nothing. She simply went into the mountains and did not come back. Kokoda Track. The Kokoda Track cuts 96 kilometers through the Owen Stanley Range in Papua New Guinea, crossing terrain so extreme that in 1942 it became the site of one of the most brutal land battles of the Second World War. Australian and Japanese forces fought each other through jungle, mud, and mountain passes at elevations reaching 2,490 meters, with supply lines stretching to breaking point. The soldiers who survived called it the worst physical ordeal of their lives. The trail has not gotten easier since. Today, the Kokoda Track is a pilgrimage route, primarily for Australians retracing the footsteps of the soldiers who fought there. The terrain involves hot and humid days, intensely cold nights, torrential rainfall, and endemic tropical diseases, including malaria. There are no roads into the track, no roads out. The only way through is on foot. In 1 year, 3 apparently healthy trekkers died within months of each other, all from physical collapse, not accidents. One tour operator reported a fatality within their own group during a single expedition. The track requires between 8 and 10 days to complete and demands a level of physical conditioning that many trekkers significantly underestimate. Guides, local porters from the communities along the route, are considered essential, and experienced hikers have credited their guides with saving their lives multiple times during a single crossing. The Kokoda Track does not reward overconfidence. It has been swallowing people since long before tourists ever arrived. Ben Nevis. Ben Nevis is the tallest mountain in the United Kingdom, standing at 1,345 meters above sea level in the Scottish Highlands. More than 125,000 people attempt the summit every year. Many in inadequate clothing, without maps, and with no understanding of how quickly conditions at the top can deteriorate. Since records began in 1849, more than 100 people have died on Ben Nevis. On average, 3 people die there every year. The mountain's weather is its most dangerous feature. The summit sits inside cloud for more than 300 days a year. Temperatures at the top can be 15 degrees colder than at the base, and wind speeds regularly exceed those of a Category 1 hurricane. The North Face draws experienced climbers to its technical routes, where avalanches have buried entire roped teams. In 2020, 2 climbers, a couple, were reported missing after heading for the North Face during Storm Denny. Their bodies were not recovered for weeks. In 2025, a man fell more than 650 feet on the mountain. His climbing partner was rescued, but he did not survive. What makes Ben Nevis particularly dangerous is that it looks manageable from a distance. The main tourist path, the mountain track, is well worn and clearly visible on a clear day, but experienced hikers know that the summit plateau is notoriously disorienting in fog and can send walkers over the wrong edge without warning. The number of rescues carried out by the Lochaber Mountain Rescue Team increases every year as more tourists arrive with less preparation than the mountain requires. Striding Edge. Striding Edge is a narrow mountain ridge in the English Lake District, leading to the summit of Helvellyn, the 3rd highest peak in England, at 950 meters. It is one of the most famous and most dangerous routes in the United Kingdom. The ridge itself is a knife-edge arete, dropping sharply on both sides, with sections requiring hands-on scrambling and precise footing. On a clear summer day, it draws crowds. In poor weather, it becomes a serious survival challenge. Deaths on Striding Edge are documented and recurring. Walkers have fallen from the ridge in conditions ranging from winter ice to summer rain, and from both the Striding Edge approach and the equally exposed Swirl Edge descent. The Lake District's weather is famously unpredictable. Clear skies can give way to thick cloud, strong wind, and driving rain within minutes, reducing visibility to near zero on terrain where a single misstep means a long fall. Inexperienced hikers, drawn by the trail's reputation, regularly attempt it underprepared. Search and rescue teams in the Lake District respond to incidents on Helvellyn and Striding Edge every year. The route attracts hikers from across the world who have seen it described as a bucket list scramble, without always understanding that it demands basic climbing confidence and the ability to navigate in mountain conditions. Rangers have repeatedly warned that social media has driven a surge of under-equipped visitors to the ridge, drawn by photographs taken on perfect days, with no understanding of what the same route looks like when the weather turns. Angel's Landing. Angel's Landing in Zion National Park, Utah, is one of the most photographed hikes in the United States. The 5.4-mile round-trip trail ends at a narrow sandstone spine with sheer cliffs dropping up to 1,800 feet on either side, where hikers pull themselves up using fixed chains bolted into the rock. Millions of people have seen images of it online. As of 2026, at least 19 people have died there, 17 of them from falls. The most recent confirmed fatality came in April 2025, when 68-year-old Gilberto Ramos of Texas fell from the chained section of the trail. The trail has also claimed a 13-year-old girl who slipped on an exposed corner, a German tourist who fell nearly 1,000 feet from a rain-slicked section, and multiple experienced hikers who made a single wrong step. In 2022, Zion National Park introduced a permit lottery system specifically to reduce crowding on the chains. Because when too many hikers are on the narrow spine at once, passing each other becomes a fatal risk in itself. What drives the death toll at Angel's Landing is not the trail's difficulty. It is the trail's reputation. Social media has made it one of the most aspirational hikes in the world, drawing hikers who arrive in sandals, without water, and without any understanding of what the final half-mile actually demands. A hiking guide who works in the area put it plainly: people die at Angel's Landing because they confuse wanting to do it with being ready to do it. The mountain has no mechanism for telling the difference. Half Dome. Half Dome rises 2,700 meters above sea level in Yosemite National Park, California. Its iconic granite face is one of the most recognizable rock formations on Earth. The route to the summit covers up to 26 kilometers round trip, with nearly 1,500 meters of elevation gain, ending in a near vertical cable section where hikers haul themselves up a 45 to 60 degree granite slope. A peer-reviewed study published in a medical journal confirmed 31 deaths on Half Dome between 1930 and 2015. One of those who died was a National Park Service worker whose remains were never recovered. Lightning is one of the most significant threats. The exposed summit and cable section sit well above the tree line, and afternoon thunderstorms in Yosemite build quickly during summer, the peak season for Half Dome hiking. Multiple hikers have been struck and killed on the cables. Falls account for another large share of fatalities, along with medical emergencies brought on by the physical demands of the climb. Between 2005 and 2009, there were 85 search and rescue incidents in the Half Dome area alone. The National Park Service introduced a permit lottery in 2010 after the cable section was drawing over 1,200 hikers per day. Even with permits capping daily access at 300, the trail continues to see deaths and serious injuries every season. A Park Service ranger, when asked why so many people die there, gave an answer that applies to nearly every trail on this list. People consistently overestimate their ability and underestimate the mountain. Half Dome does not care how many times you have seen a photograph of it. Mount Huashan Plank Walk. Mount Huashan in Shanxi Province, China, is one of the country's 5 great mountains, with temples perched on its 5 peaks that have drawn pilgrims for centuries. The trail to the South Peak includes one of the most visually terrifying sections of hiking on Earth, a series of narrow wooden planks bolted directly into the sheer face of a cliff thousands of feet above the valley floor. Hikers shuffle sideways along boards barely wide enough for both feet, gripping iron chains fixed to the rock with nothing beneath them but air. There are no official government death statistics for Mount Huashan. Chinese authorities do not publish a fatality count. Rumors have circulated for years that as many as 100 people die on the mountain annually, but these figures have not been verified and are widely disputed. What is confirmed is that deaths do occur. In 2018, a man was filmed removing his safety harness on the plank walk before falling to his death, an incident that prompted Chinese authorities to introduce a mandatory registration system for all visitors to the trail. The approach to the plank walk itself involves near vertical staircases cut into solid rock, sections where the planks disappear entirely, and hikers must use small carved footholds and a rebar ladder ascending a vertical rock face. Despite the introduction of mandatory safety harnesses on the plank walk section, the mountain continues to draw millions of visitors each year with no fitness requirement and no enforced gear check beyond the harness itself. Anyone who can buy a ticket can walk onto one of the most exposed hiking routes on Earth. Huayna Picchu. Huayna Picchu is the dramatic peak that rises directly behind the Inca ruins of Machu Picchu in Peru. From the famous photographs of the lost city, it is the pointed mountain in the background, and it has a trail to the top. The route covers just 2.5 kilometers round trip, but it climbs more than 300 meters through steep Inca staircases carved directly into the mountainside. One section is known simply as the Stairs of Death. The steps are narrow, often slick with rain or mist, and drop away into vertical cliff faces on both sides. Falls from Huayna Picchu have killed hikers over the years, and the Peruvian government eventually introduced a strict daily quota limiting access to a set number of visitors per day. Even with the quota in place, thousands attempt the climb every year, and the trail continues to see serious incidents. The steps were built by the Inca over 500 years ago and were not designed for recreational tourism. They were functional paths for a civilization that lived and worked at altitude. For modern tourists arriving from sea level, the combination of altitude, steep exposure, and wet conditions creates a genuinely hazardous environment. What makes Huayna Picchu particularly deceptive is its setting. Hikers arrive at Machu Picchu for a historic and cultural experience, not a technical mountain climb. Many begin the ascent to Huayna Picchu on impulse, in the same footwear they wore to walk around the ruins below. The mountain sits within one of the most visited archaeological sites in the world, which creates a false sense of safety. Guides at the site have repeatedly reported seeing tourists begin the climb with no preparation, no understanding of the route, and no awareness of how serious a fall from those steps would be. Olympic National Park. Olympic National Park covers nearly 1 million acres across the Olympic Peninsula in Washington state, encompassing temperate rainforest, glacier-capped peaks, and over 70 miles of wild Pacific coastline. The park's sheer variety of terrain and the dense, fog-filled rainforest that covers much of it makes it one of the most disorienting wilderness areas in the United States. Hikers have disappeared into the park's labyrinth of trails and never been found. In June 2006, 47-year-old Gilbert Gilman parked his car at the Staircase Ranger Station, spoke briefly with a park ranger, and walked into Olympic National Park to take photographs. He was never seen again. A 10-day search found nothing. No trace, no remains, no explanation. As of 2024, his disappearance remains unsolved. In October 2022, 35-year-old Laura Mackey entered the park's backcountry on a solo hiking permit to the Enchanted Valley. She was reported missing when she failed to return. 19 agencies joined the search. Helicopters, dog teams, drones, and ground crews covered the area for weeks. She has never been found. The rainforest sections of Olympic are particularly dangerous for navigation. Thick moss covers the ground and any landmarks a hiker might use to orient themselves. Heavy rainfall causes rivers to rise rapidly, cutting off crossing points without warning. The park's remote interior can take days to reach on foot, and helicopter access is frequently blocked by cloud cover. Olympic National Park is one of the wettest places in the continental United States, and one of the easiest places in the world to simply disappear. Mount Washington. Mount Washington in New Hampshire holds the record for the highest wind speed ever recorded at a surface weather station, 231 miles per hour, measured in 1934. At 1,917 meters, it is not the tallest mountain in the northeastern United States by a significant margin, but its position in the presidential range creates a weather phenomenon unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. Cold Arctic air collides with warm air moving up the Atlantic coast, generating storms of extraordinary speed and violence with almost no warning. Hikers have died on Mount Washington in every month of the year. The mountain's death toll has climbed steadily since the 19th century, with causes including hypothermia, falls, and being caught in sudden storms with no shelter nearby. The summit observatory has documented wind chills as low as -100 degrees Fahrenheit. In November 2001, a hiker named Louise Chaput was found stabbed to death off the Glen Boulder Trail, southeast of Mount Washington. Her killer has never been identified. The case remains open more than 2 decades later. The Appalachian Mountain Club operates a hut system in the White Mountains, but the terrain above treeline offers no shelter when conditions deteriorate. Rangers have issued repeated warnings that the mountain kills people who are physically fit, well-equipped, and experienced because the weather changes faster than any human can reliably respond to. A sign at the trailhead reads, "The area ahead has the worst weather in America." Many have died there from exposure, even in summer. Pacific Crest Trail. The Pacific Crest Trail runs 4,270 kilometers from the Mexican border in California to Manning Park in British Columbia, Canada. It passes through California, Oregon, and Washington, crossing deserts, mountain ranges, and wilderness areas where no roads or services exist for hundreds of kilometers at a stretch. Since 1983, 15 thru-hikers have been confirmed dead on the trail. Others have simply vanished, leaving nothing behind but abandoned packs and unanswered questions. Chris Fowler was 34 years old and had walked nearly the entire length of the trail when he disappeared in Washington State in October 2016. He was last seen near the town of Bering. His pack was found. He was not. David O'Sullivan, a 25-year-old Irish hiker, went missing in the California section in 2017 after his last communication with his family. Despite searches, his fate remained unknown for years. Chris Sylvia, 28, disappeared in 2015, the day before a friend was due to pick him up, leaving all of his gear behind at camp. What links many of the PCT's disappearances is the isolation. Thru-hikers spend months moving through terrain where cell service is unreliable, where the nearest road can be 50 kilometers away, and where a single accident, a fall, a river crossing gone wrong, a medical emergency can leave someone beyond the reach of any help. The trail sees hundreds of people attempt it each year, and most finish without serious incident. But for those who don't, the distances involved mean the search area can be almost impossibly large. Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon stretches 446 kilometers across northern Arizona, dropping more than 1.6 kilometers from rim to canyon floor. It is one of the most visited natural landmarks on Earth, receiving around 5 million visitors per year. It is also one of the most dangerous. Since 2018, the Grand Canyon has recorded over 1,000 missing person reports. At least 6 people were found dead in the park between 2018 and early 2023, with many more cases remaining open. The canyon reverses the normal logic of mountain hiking. The descent is easy. It is the climb back out that kills people. Hikers walk down into the canyon in the cool of the morning, reach the bottom feeling strong, and then attempt the return climb in temperatures that can exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit at the canyon floor. Heat stroke sets in fast. Rangers recover the bodies of hikers who sat down to rest in the shade and never got up. The Park Service posts signs at trail entrances that read, "Do not hike to the river and back in one day." The signs are routinely ignored. The canyon's scale creates a second problem. It is almost impossible to grasp how far away help is once you are inside it. Trails that look short on a map cover terrain that takes hours to move through. Cell service is non-existent in most of the inner canyon. Helicopter rescue requires a landing zone, which the narrow trails and cliff faces rarely provide. Some sections of the canyon have seen multiple disappearances with no clear explanation, and the bodies of some missing hikers have never been found in a landscape that is simply too vast to fully search. Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier is a 4,392-meter active stratovolcano in Washington State, the most topographically prominent peak in the contiguous United States. It holds more glacial ice than any other mountain in the lower 48 states. At least 400 people are currently listed as missing in Mount Rainier National Park, their disappearances unsolved. Between 2018 and 2020 alone, the park recorded 732 search and rescue incidents. The mountain's glacier system is one of its most lethal features. Crevasses hidden beneath snow bridges have swallowed climbers whole. Seracs, unstable ice towers, collapse without warning. Sudden weather changes can transform a clear summit day into a whiteout within an hour. In 1999, Joe Woods, a writer from New York on a summit attempt, vanished without trace. No remains were ever recovered. In 2023, Dawes Eddy, an 80-year-old experienced hiker who had made the same route many times, went missing during what should have been a familiar solo hike. He has not been found. What separates Mount Rainier from other dangerous peaks is the sheer number of unresolved cases. Entire climbing parties have disappeared on the mountain's upper glaciers and never been located. The glacier moves and shifts constantly, and bodies recovered years after a disappearance have sometimes emerged kilometers from where the person was last seen, carried by the slow movement of the ice. The mountain is not finished with its dead. It simply stores them in a place that is, for now, unreachable. Great Smoky Mountains. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park straddles the border of Tennessee and North Carolina, covering over 520,000 acres of dense forest, mountain ridges, and river valleys. It is the most visited national park in the United States, recording over 13 million visitors in 2023. Its trails are well marked, its campgrounds popular, and its peaks accessible. And yet people go missing there and are never found. On June 14, 1969, 6-year-old Dennis Martin disappeared while playing hide-and-seek with his family near Spence Field on the Appalachian Trail. He ducked behind a bush and was never seen again. One of the largest search efforts in Smoky Mountain history followed, involving hundreds of searchers, tracking dogs, and military personnel. Nothing was ever found. No trace, no remains, no explanation. Dennis Martin remains a missing persons case to this day. On September 25, 1981, 58-year-old Pauline Melton was hiking with friends on the Deep Creek Trail when she walked over a hill and out of sight. Her friends waited. She never came back. She has never been found. These are not isolated cases. The Smoky Mountains hold multiple cold cases of hikers who vanished on well-traveled trails in conditions that should not have been lethal. The park's terrain, with its dense canopy, rolling ridgelines, and dozens of unmarked hollows, creates an environment where even experienced searchers struggle to cover ground effectively. Fog collects in the valleys year-round, and the forest can swallow sound and scent in ways that have repeatedly defeated even highly trained search and rescue teams. Kalalau Trail. The Kalalau Trail runs 22 kilometers along the Na Pali coast of Kauai, Hawaii, tracing a narrow path above the Pacific Ocean on cliffs that drop hundreds of feet to the sea below. It is widely described as one of the most beautiful hikes in the world and one of the most lethal in the entire United States. The trail is one way in and one way out, with no exit points once you begin. If conditions deteriorate, there is nowhere to go but forward or back along the same exposed path. The trail's dangers are multiple and relentless. Sections cling to cliff sides with sheer drops to the ocean. Stream crossings that are straightforward in dry conditions become raging, uncrossable torrents after heavy rain, which can arrive with almost no warning on Kauai. A section known as Crawler's Ledge forces hikers to navigate a narrow path above a deadly drop with the Pacific crashing below. The jungle sections become treacherously muddy. Deaths on the trail have resulted from falls, drownings in flash-flooded streams, and hikers attempting to swim in the ocean at the trail's end, where strong currents operate year-round. The trail requires a permit for anyone going beyond the 2-mile mark, and rangers enforce the rules because the rescue operations required when things go wrong are genuinely difficult and dangerous. Helicopters are often the only way to extract injured hikers from the middle sections of the trail, and weather frequently prevents their operation. Experienced Kauai hikers describe the Kalalau Trail as a route where the consequences of any mistake are immediate and severe, and where the ocean, always visible, always audible, serves as a constant reminder of what waits at the bottom of a fall. Appalachian Trail. The Appalachian Trail stretches 2,190 miles through 14 states, running from Springer Mountain in Georgia to Mount Katahdin in Maine. It is one of the longest continuously marked hiking trails in the world, and completing it takes between 5 and 7 months. Around 4,000 people attempt it each year. Roughly 6 people go missing on the trail annually. Some are found, some are not. In July 2013, 66-year-old Geraldine Largay stepped off the trail briefly in Maine's remote backcountry and could not find her way back. She spent 26 days alone in the wilderness, sending text messages that never reached anyone due to the complete lack of cell coverage in that section. Her remains were found 2 years later inside her tent, less than 2 miles from the trail. Her journal documented every one of those 26 days. The most isolated section, Maine's 100-mile wilderness, has claimed multiple hikers who ran out of supplies, became injured, or simply got turned around in terrain with no landmarks and no way out except on foot. The trail also carries a documented history of violent crime. In March 2019, a hiker was stabbed to death in Virginia's Shenandoah section. Multiple unsolved disappearances along the trail's length remain open cases decades later. In 2000, a woman's body was found in a lake along the trail in Tennessee. Unidentified, cause of death unknown. More than 23 years later, no one has claimed her. The Appalachian Trail is beloved and deeply dangerous in equal measure, and its length means that what happens in its most remote stretches often stays there. These trails appear on maps, in guidebooks, and across millions of social media posts. People walk them every year believing that popularity means safety. The mountains have no interest in correcting that assumption. For those who don't come home, the search is eventually called off, and the case goes cold. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more beyond belief facts, click on the video appearing on your screen now and remember to hit the subscribe button.